Welcome to Mappiton, our family home and estate in Dorset in the southwest of England.
Julie and I took over running Mappiton a few years ago from my parents, the Earl and Countess of Sandwich.
It's a lot of work, but also a lot of fun. This place is full of fascinating stories, extraordinary people, and endless repairs.
So please join our family on this journey of a lifetime as we put all our efforts into preserving this magnificent part of England's heritage.
Hello, welcome to Mappiton Gardens, and I hope you're going to enjoy looking at it with Steve and me as much as everybody enjoys looking at it. Steve mostly enjoys working in it, and I always enjoy the small amounts I do. Welcome to you from all over the world, and I hope there are people from the Far East, because we also want to show you our Japanese cherries, and then our Chinese trees, and then our New World trees. So the garden is from everywhere, and I hope you're all from everywhere. And we're now in the front courtyard of the house, but I'm going to introduce Steve Lennon, head gardener. Been here
4 years.
4 years. Seems like it's eternity. And the garden has improved enormously under his firm but kind tutelage. He's not the only gardener here. Tell everybody where you come from and how you managed to get here and all that stuff.
Well, I've been here, as I say, about 4 years now. Prior to this, I worked for a garden designer called Arnie Maynard at his house in Wales, which is an orange Renaissance tower house surrounded by topiary. And prior to that, Sudeley Castle in the Cotswolds, which is sort of similar size, but a completely different feel.
So we're now in the front courtyard of the house. House behind you. It's a very good time to see the gardens. This is spring, and the Clematis montana, the pink Clematis montana, is out over there. A white Clematis montana is coming out, and it's called Wilsonii, and it actually is scented. But actually, Steve, we've let it go so high up the house you can't smell it, unfortunately. It's round the corner there. And then what else is out? Lovely honesty. We like to have honesty. It's a very important virtue. And it's something that, you could do with more of in politics these days. And then those are spurges over there, Euphorbia Mellifera.
Wolfenii,
Do you think
yes.
they are Wolfenii?
I think they are, yes.
Just about. And then up there is a Buddleia. Salicifolia, which we only managed to prune the bottom half where we could reach. And this year we're going to have to get up on ladders and really prune it there. What else?
It's got quite large now.
I know. Well, I'm going to watch you doing it, Steve.
Thank you.
Not at all. What else have we got in here? What about that? Euphorbia Mellifera. Is that right?
Yeah, a mellifera is a really good one for us because it's honey scented as well at this time of year.
It's
wonderful.
really good. And actually, more or less our only lilac is out. That lilac has a name so extraordinarily long, and I did once write it on it, and then by mistake, when I was cutting some branches off, I cut straight through the label. And I'm afraid to say I haven't been bothered to do it again because it's so long. And that's very sweet scented. Now, then that's a late camellia. When my father-in-law lived here, Victor Montague, who bought the house indeed in 1956, he used to sit in the library there without any of these enormous Euphorbia spurges, and he always looked out at that camellia over there, which is called Adolphe Audusson. Steve, where should we go next?
I think we should probably go and have a look at the wisterias, which are just beginning to come out.
Okay, so we're going to go up to there. Steve, this wisteria is just beginning to look absolutely wonderful. We've got 4 wisterias along this wall. How do they go?
Floribunda, Chinensis, Chinensis and Floribunda again.
And we want to look at that far Floribunda, which is not at all Floribunda and is actually dying, and we need to get another one. But it's always the Floribundas that come out first. And they don't have quite as long racemes, long, what do you call them?
Sort of flower
stalks as the Sinensis, the Chinese wisteria. And I've always been told, and I think it's right, that Japanese Floribunda, Japanese wisteria twines to the right, and Chinese wisteria
twines to the left. Yes, it does. Yeah,
that's correct.
It actually does. Yeah,
it's unbelievable that that's the case, but it is apparently. And it smells divine and it looks divine. Shall we go and look at the other Floribunda? And you can see they're longer and more delicate. These. Can't remember which smells better.
Oh, good question. I think the Floribunda actually.
Yeah. And then we get to here, where we hugely admire that enormous stem, twining up and up and up and up and up and going over the door and all the way along there, dead.
Yeah, all this really lovely old limb over the top is all dead.
But we are going to keep it.
Oh, we're going to keep it until it falls apart because it looks wonderful despite the fact that it is unfortunately deceased.
It's late wisteria. On the other hand, this is okay, this bit here, and we're going to plant another one there.
Yes, absolutely.
And from here, of course, you get this wonderful view across the fields. It's interesting that the walnut trees are late. Are they always late, Steve?
They do seem particularly late, although they are always one of the last, I think.
Are they?
Yeah, they do seem to be. But this year, we have had a very late spring. I think we are probably 2 weeks behind where we were last year.
Really? And from here, we're going to walk right across the lawn, right to the far end, where we're going to look down on Steve's red tulips. When you first came, I said, I like bright scarlet, if not orange tulips in the garden, and you thought...
Yeah, I was a little bit unconvinced, if I'm honest.
Totally, actually.
Yeah, prior to being here, the sort of idea of having just bright red didn't really appeal. And initially, you let me have my own way, I think, in the first year. And I think I planted... What did I plant? I planted something else.
Hideous deep purple ones or something that didn't show at all and did nothing.
No, well, they were very classy, I thought. But
But I'm not classy, and this garden... Well, this garden is classy in its own way, which is...
I think what I found actually is those bright red highlights, especially this time of year where the garden is very green, helps to draw the eye through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in a garden like this where your eye needs to travel around from an elevated point, and actually anything that's sort of classy and subtle, like my lovely dark tulips, just didn't really work.
And these tulips here, which are all random, I decided it was time we had something which was not classical, but rather more of a sort of romantic way of planting tulips. So I planted them all randomly at the end here, so that people down by the pools should see them. And it should look different, actually, different.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting this important part of England's heritage by becoming a patron at mappitonlive.com.
So we've now come to the front of the orangery, and we're looking both at the orangery itself and at this extraordinary avenue of crab apples. Would you like to talk about the crab apples, really?
Well, I can't tell you when they were planted, of course, because you planted them.
I planted this avenue of crab apples for two reasons. One was that this orangery, which don't delude yourselves, it's 18th century. It was built in 1968 by my father-in-law, and it stood there, and then the rest of the garden was there, and there was no linking between the orangery and the fountain court. So I planted these to kind of give a link. And really I planted them for the winter, not for the summer. I planted them because they have little tiny beautiful red, well, they're crab apples,
yeah,
I suppose.
Yeah.
red sentinel.
Yes, yes.
And a garden visitor yesterday told me more about it. She said they're the only crabapple that keeps its crabs
Right,
on the
I see.
branch, and
Yeah.
so they provide food for the birds all through the winter. But I planted them because the little red crabs look lovely against these yew bushes in December.
But last week we were in this bed lifting and dividing some of the perennials, and the sound from the bees was absolutely extraordinary.
Can you hear it now?
You probably
we
can
hear
if you walk down
Sure.
into
Oh,
it.
well, we'll walk down in a minute.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
Oh, listen, 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 listen. Oh, it's wonderful. Can you hear, Steve, can you hear the bees?
Oh, they sound absolutely
Absolutely stunning. I must say the pergola is so beautiful, isn't it? And I think your pruning has been absolutely magnificent of all these roses. Which was the worst rose here to prune?
The worst one actually is we're heading towards it now, and it's just on the right hand side.
This thing here?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
think I
yeah,
should
yeah.
just take some more off it?
Well,
I mean, if I were just to, Steve, what could I take off? I really don't think I can.
this one takes me about 3 days to prune.
This thing,
Yeah,
is-
it's
well, then let-
absolutely huge, and it reaches right across to the other side, and it turns into a real nest every year.
Really?
So this one is probably one of the toughest ones in the garden.
Well, I'll tell you what, should we take it out?
I'm not sure.
If it's doing 3 days. I mean, it seems a bit of a waste to spend 3 days on American, I bet it's American pillar.
Yeah, it could well be. It is a rambler that does grow particularly hard.
I mean, for all of you in America who are listening to this, we are very fond of America, but we're not fond of that rose American pillar, which is a rather coarse pink and rather too big. And then, of course, we've got more wisterias here, haven't we? We've got the two white ones, white floribunda there,
Yes, a
And-
floribunda.
and white chinensis
Yes,
there.
just there and through
There,
up.
yep. So, and those are rather wonderful. And of course, in the spring like this, before there is a cover of leaves from the roses, we're able to have all these hellebores of different colours all the way up here, and all these
And lots of epimedium.
And what is the real trouble with epimedium?
Well, the balance is the right time to cut back the leaves. So you cut back the leaves in February time-ish, just as the flowering stalks are starting to come through. And if you leave it too late, you end up having to cut around all the stems, which
And it
can
takes
be a real
ages.
pain. And we've got hundreds of them.
And the reason we have hundreds of them is because I like them and I've put them in everywhere. And then they grow too much, and so we then have to take some out and put them somewhere else. And this is your favourite vine, or is it my favourite vine? Or should we take it out?
Yeah, it's there are some plants that are just a bit too much of a thug, and this one looks wonderful for a couple of weeks of the year, and then the rest of the year it smothers everything. And so I've taken to hacking it back really hard every year, but I think in the long term it may well not be one that stays.
Does it flower?
I've never seen it flower.
Oh, well, let's take it out. So really this pergola is really great. And from here, we're going to turn around, aren't we, and look down to the next level of the garden. The thing is, for all of you who are watching, it looks as if that pool has been there forever and it's perfectly clear and totally wonderful. However, 10 days ago,
Well, we emptied it and then cleaned out all the mud from it, of which there was about 4 inches of muck.
of mud.
Yep. And then we pressure washed the sides, and it looked beautiful when we started to refill it. And it's been trying to refill ever since because it's been so dry.
But we love it and we swim in it. And when the frogs and toads have really got going, and the newts, we sort of wave to them as we swim past.
So I've brought you down into here because I think this is my favourite moment in the Arboretum, just because you've got this sea of frothy Queen Anne's lace. Is that
Sure,
the other
cow
name?
parsley,
Or cow parsley. And for us, this is a bit of a job, because around about July we have to cut all this down because it gets long and dead and sort of straggly. So just now, when everything is just at its early sort of late spring peak, I think it's particularly wonderful.
I think it's wonderful too, absolutely wonderful. But it doesn't last that long, does it?
No. There's definitely a moment here, and like all the best ones in gardening, it's a transient one.
Evanescent. Sometimes, of course, it coincides with the laburnum, doesn't it?
It does, and this year it just hasn't. I think probably because it's been such a cold spring. As you say, sort of even last night we're still having frosts, which usually they should be gone weeks ago.
Yep, but we're getting them every night, aren't we?
We are, yeah.
And of course the whole arboretum looks wonderful at this time of year. Look at that aesculus, sort of chestnut there.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you know what
yes.
it is?
I looked it up last year because we got another one further down as well. That's another really fine aesculus.
American.
Yes.
Buck.
Yes.
Wheat? No.
Buckeye.
Buckeye. That's right.
Yeah.
Buckeye. This is a pretty good bit of bluebells, isn't it, Steve?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yes. So we have bluebell woods throughout the estate, and this is our little patch towards the end of the arboretum into the spring garden.
I mean, what's so good about our bluebells is they're really so strong and blue. I mean, look at the colour of those bluebells there.
Yes, they are.
They are
good. They are particularly dark blue and vibrant.
Yep. And apparently there are more white bells this year because the weather's been so foul that they thought that if they came up white, they might be protected from being eaten or anything by frost.
How interesting.
So
I didn't know that was the case.
Nor did I, but an ecologist told me that yesterday. Not that I believed it actually, because it seems to me they'd have had to start coming up white before they knew whether it's going to be frosty or not.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other thing that's so good is that lovely bush over there, isn't it? What's it called, Steve?
I think that's Excordia. Excordia the bride.
And then also down here we have what used to be called rhododendron corner.
Yes. So
Not
our soil
very
isn't
many.
particularly suited to
No.
rhododendrons.
And nor is our sensibilities, are they, Steve, yours and mine?
Not. Some of the colours are good, but they are quite bright for us.
And actually the orange ones have died, haven't they? I think they have. I think they
yeah,
really,
it
really
was nothing
have.
to do with me.
What? Nor me.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting this important part of England's heritage by becoming a patron at mappitonlive.com.
Well, I hope you've really, really enjoyed this spring tour of Mappiton Gardens. We could have showed you a lot more, but we thought that was enough for now, do you think?
Absolutely. We didn't want to show you everything at once.
No. And we look forward to you all coming back and more for the next session, which is summer, when we will be showing the...
Well, I think we're going to look at the roses and flower beds a little bit more, because we haven't really looked at an awful lot today.
Well, we can't because they're not really there yet. So we hope you've enjoyed that. Please join us again, and we'll also show you more trees in leaf and in flower. Goodbye, and thank you so much.
Thank you.